So our next panel is going to focus on food and innovation. So this panel is titled, Is Food Tech an Acquired Taste? I'd like to invite up into the stage Rob Povolny, founder of Fresco Foods, Nathaniel Waring, founder of Bizu.me, Stevie Morgan, founder and CEO of CaterMe Fit. And I'd like to also invite Kunal Jain, who will be moderating this panel.
Hello, everybody. Are you hungry? Looks like it. So we all love food, don't we? We all love food. And in next 45 minutes, we all four people here, these are the four chefs you can say, we will be cooking some healthy food for thought. Some healthy food for thought for you. And I would like to welcome each of them and have them introduce by themselves. But I know Rob for like last 1 year. I met him and I was very impressed by his Eat Fresco Foods. That's a company, local in Tampa Bay area. Nathaniel, he's a beverage specialist. His company name is Bizu. And Stevie, her goal and her mission is to keep healthy communities and healthy people by CaterMe Fit. So I would start with Rob, just to introduce themselves, and then we'll start the session.
Thanks, Kunal. My name is Rob Povolny, and again, we started a company called Eat Fresco just almost 2 years ago, about a year and a half in the market. And we're bringing a new approach to packaged food products, a fresh approach and local, which we'll talk about. But it's a really exciting time in the food industry with a lot going on. So we're anxious to spend the next 45 minutes talking about everything that is going on and what the future holds in the food and beverage industry.
I'm Stevie Morgan. I founded CaterMe Fit almost 3 years ago, initially for my father to help him get rid of sickness and lose some weight. And now we have over 30 employees providing 6,000 meals a week. We deliver to the doors of busy professionals, working families with children, anybody really looking to, who doesn't have time to eat healthy right now.
I'm Nathaniel Waring. I'm the co-founder, my other co-founder sitting here in front of me, of Bizu. And Bizu is a technology platform that links large beverage companies, alcoholic beverage companies, with venues, bars, restaurants, wherever people drink, and consumers. So it really enables consumers to do what they want to do, go out and drink and celebrate, and brands to, in a more intelligent way, get their brand, their beverage to consumers. And where that happens is the venue, the bar, and the restaurant. So with technology now, with algorithms, with what's going on, we're creating an ecosystem to put all those three players together in an intelligent way, where they can talk to each other.
I know food is, I'll give you a little bit my background. I started a food company called Eat Well a year ago, and our goal was to promote home-style meals and deliver to homes through a delivery platform. Of course, every food industry or every new food idea revolves around healthy meals and health. And the first step is basically to determine what is good for you. And everybody has a different definition of health and healthy food. Lately, in last 2 years, you have seen a lot of new channels which has created for the delivery process. You have seen Munchery in California. People who have come from California, they know what Munchery is. You have seen Sprig. They are also promoting the same way. It's a restaurant which basically delivers the meals at your home. So you have seen the trends in last 2 years, and not only that, there are technology companies like Eat24, Yelp, Direct Eats, Amazon Fresh, Blue Apron. I mean, plenty of food tech companies who are launching their models every day. And I was looking into some numbers for last 3 months, and actually the numbers and the trends in this industry, I'm talking about the numbers in the investment side, are really disappointing. In last 3 months, there are $758 million is funding for 51 private companies across the world. in food tech only. In last 3 months, the average amount per deal was 8 million versus the 6 months before. 6 months before it was 14 million. So the data is going down. The trend shows it's really discouraging investing into food tech industry. So I think my first question would be, how do you see that trend and how do you want to address this situation?
Yeah, what you have going on in the food industry, if we take a step back to see where we were. A century ago, we grew our own food, we sourced our own food locally, a lot of us made our own food. And then somewhere in between then and now, the packaged food industry and the restaurant industry has evolved and changed. Where you ran into big food companies manufacturing food and shipping it around the country with ingredients maybe that we all didn't care for or didn't understand what the impact was. The same trend occurred in the restaurant industry with the growth of fast food restaurants. Again, getting away from the basics of what the food industry or what food that we were originally eating. So now what you're finding is a lot of consumers are driving a lot of companies to change and a lot of innovation in the marketplace. Consumers demand better food, bottom line, better quality, flavorful, freshness, transparency, responsible sourcing, social impact. What are you doing for our local community? So that's what's been driving all this innovation. And a lot of us, it's been happening in the background, but right now, it's occurring right now there's a food revolution. There's a revolution in the food industry. And it's across from packaged food to restaurants, system-wide, and it's all driven by consumers wanting better. So a lot of things are being thrown out there. There's food delivery services, ingredient kit services where they ship you ingredients. There's a lot of business model innovation that's occurring right now. So it'll be interesting to see over the next year or several years what sticks, what works, what doesn't. But the bottom line is that they have to address those consumer demands for better products. And when you think about the younger generation, they want to be connected to the food. Where was it made? How is it made? How is it processed? What am I eating? What are the ingredients in our food? And a lot of these big food and even beverage companies are being challenged to do so. And they're not doing the best job. So that opens up a big opportunity for startups in the food and beverage industry to innovate for these big food companies. And again, that turns into M&A activity as well. So what you're seeing a lot of times is that a startup is creating a new product that resonates with consumers, and then a big food or beverage company comes along and purchases them and helps them scale nationwide and take that solution to more customers. So it's, again, it's happening in the background. Not a lot of people, I don't think, pay attention to it, but it's really interesting to see what's going to happen over the next few years with
So Stevie, you own a CaterMe Fit, which is pretty much like a food tech platform. And do you see any kind of specific challenge which is holding up these companies to continue investing into food tech?
I mean, I think we're all still figuring out the best way or what's going to sustain, what's next. I really believe we're all truly just figuring that out still. Our success is because the consumers are demanding that, and I believe that's coming from the education. We're learning about food. There's documentaries now. People are talking about what's going on in our food and the effects on our body and sickness, and people are reversing that now, going into the holistic health. And so by consumers hearing that, people are interested in what are they eating. But not only that, along with the healthcare reform and going into preventative medicine, I mean, that's those two things together are allowing businesses like ours to really shine right now.
Wow. Nathaniel, any thoughts of the?
Yeah, I think in follow-up to what Rob was saying, to give us a little bit about the history of food and how it made a huge change. For thousands of years, it was food, then it became a product, and it became packaged, and then restaurants came on board. I'm actually very excited about the space that we're in, food. And I'm not a technologist by background. I spent about 20 years of my life in hospitality and travel, going around the world. But a big part of that was eating and drinking, different types of food around the world. But I like to look at things as like how technology, and not being a technologist, I can say big things because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But certain large ecosystems have inefficiencies. And we all know, if you take the example of Uber, they looked at transportation. People wanted to get around. People had empty cars that weren't being used. You wanted something delivered. And so Uber took transportation, whether it's yourself moving around or a meal coming to your house. Airbnb took a huge, even larger ecosystem. I think their valuation is going to be twice as big as Uber. And they're looking at where people sleep and where people live and where people stay. Starting off with, instead of booking a hotel, you can book an Airbnb. And that's huge, and it's going to be a lot bigger. The other big one, which I don't think has been exploited yet, is what people do with their time. Not work, but leisure. So you've got apps like Tinder, which kind of rolled up the whole dating scene. You've got apps and technology that allow people to meet up, couch surfing, meet up, Yelp, things to do. But my feeling is that food and beverage can be bigger than all of these, because think about it, we eat and we drink 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. Food is also very social. The largest category on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat now, which has more monthly users than Twitter even, that the single largest category is food. Think about all your friends who take a picture of their hamburger, nicely stacked up, or their drink, and post that. So I'm actually excited about where we fit in and what you guys are doing with food delivery, what we're trying to do at my company in terms of getting alcohol and branded drinks to people. Because right now there is no company that has done what Uber has done, what Airbnb has done in their respective fields with food. So I think it's quite exciting. And like Rob was saying, and Kunal, you were saying, I think there's going to be a lot of acquisition and mergers. And I think a lot of what we do here, we can learn from our competition in different places.
Right.
So I'm excited to be in this field.
Very good, very good. Now, some interesting thoughts. So I have been tracking some of the food ventures, and one of them particularly interested me a lot was True Food Kitchen. It was started by Dr. Andrew Wiles in University of, who's a very, very renowned professor in University of Arizona. He's a doctor by profession, but he creates recipes for different medical conditions, diabetes. And one of the things which I also found on USDA website, that there is a food pyramid. It's called anti-inflammatory food pyramid, which he actually invented. And he worked with another entrepreneur, and they started this kitchen called True Food Kitchen. They opened about 6 kitchens. They opened 2 kitchens in Florida also recently. And all of their meals, it revolves around gluten-free, lactose-free products, or sugar-free desserts, or something which is like they want to heal the world with the food. Do you see those kind of trends, and do you follow any of those things in your production facilities, or do you give those choices in a local market? I mean, how do you?
Yeah, I think our model at Eat Fresco is, rather than this frozen food model and shipping food around the country, we do things locally and fresh. So our food is never frozen, and it's fresh. So we don't have to use a lot of ingredients or high in sodium, things of that nature. And what that is that's an enabler. Because we're doing it fresh, because we don't have that other business model that big food manufacturers have, we're able to not have a high sodium, be able to offer items that are paying attention to dietary restrictions. And there's a lot of noise out there as far as what's good for you, what's not good for you. Everybody has different ideas of what is good for them personally. What we did at Eat Fresco is we developed an icon system on our product, on the label. So there'll be an icon if it's gluten-free, if it's high in protein, if it's low fat or heart healthy, what have you. So the consumer, right from looking at the package, can see if their dietary concerns are addressed in the product. So I think it comes down to communication. How do we communicate to the market what our product is doing? But I just go back to that business model that a lot of food companies and beverage too, what they're using, it's going to be very difficult for them to address a lot of our concerns because of that business model of shipping food and beverages all over the country. So,
Any ideas, Stevie?
I will just, off of that, I mean, it's causing the big companies to really rethink about what they're putting in their food, because a lot of those ingredients are what cause all these allergies and things going on.
But you guys use the same thing, right? What comes from either you produce them locally or you get the bulk of your, raw material to cook the food. So the question was, do you really, are you following the latest trend of where the health conscious consumers are going, or you are still going towards the larger market size? So like if you're following a sports meal package, you're going to the sports because that's a bigger market.
No, I think we're definitely following the trends of healthy eating.
And does it make your business profitable? Do you think it's a very small market at this moment?
It's not going to go anywhere.
yeah, I don't think it's going to reverse, where
Yeah.
consumers are looking for more processed foods or unhealthy
Yeah.
foods. So we're all, I think, all these startups
One
are
thing,
on trend.
Yeah, one thing I always get surprised as a consumer. How do consumer be assured that, okay, if my food is coming gluten-free facility, or the ingredients which are used for my meal is as per whatever is written on the box, or as per, how would we make ourselves assured? I mean, is it like, is some kind of, I know there are laws and which protect the consumers and all, but is it, do you see like everybody follows those laws, or it is a quite gray area for food when it comes to the food production?
Well, there's one example, I think maybe many of you here, I think it was sometime last spring or earlier in the year, there was a big investigative piece in was it the Tampa Bay Tribune about farm to table?
Farm to table.
of
Yeah,
labor.
that was
They
a
called
live
out,
example. Somebody died or something.
Certain restaurants, in fact, a restaurant I'll name because I love that restaurant called Boca, which is local organic food. They even have a whole wall with like lettuce you can pluck
Correct.
to add to your plate. But I think there, in what you're asking, sure, that's a concern. I think it's a concern in any industry. And I think as a marketer and looking at, I'm more like, I want to provide a service for what I think people want versus having an ideal of wanting to help people get fitter, like a different way of looking at it, maybe a little bit less altruistic. But I think going back to that conversation, I think if, whether you're a small company that has a mission to create food that is local and really geared to the health requirements of individual people, I'm sure you know all your clients and what they want and what they need, is to kind of listen to the story, and like the big companies that we work with are companies like Bacardi and Absolute. I mean, these are global brands, and they're probably more interested in like creating an image of something that then people will want versus creating something that's really good, because what's the difference between one vodka and the other? Not much. But I think if they listen to the story, and even at the level of delivering food, if you listen to what people are talking about on social media, people are talking about, I'm tired of having additives, right? And then there's phenomena like bullet coffee, which I started drinking to try and gain some weight, where you want to have a high-fat diet in the morning to feed your brain. So I think if we listen to those and engage in that conversation, going back to your point, Kunal, I think there will then be a credibility that that company, that brand, that food delivery company that you're interacting with on social media or in person is then doing what they claim to be doing. I still go to Boca. I think what happened with them was that they were very successful and needed strawberries, which they couldn't get, in Plant City, and had to go somewhere else.
No, that's absolutely. So when it comes to safety and healthy food, sufficient food, safe food, the biggest thing comes to our mind is what happened for those people who lives on a food stamp. Are there any incentive programs for those kind of government grants or any programs which incentivize the consumer behavior towards the adopting the healthy meal lifestyle and eating healthy? So any thoughts on these programs? Because I'm sure food stamp is a bigger portion of our society, where a lot of people are still on that kind of category. They fall under that kind of category and they live off food stamps.
You want to talk?
Well, I think now there's a lot of these programs finally rolling out. EBT in particular, they actually, I think before you couldn't purchase pre-made foods or pre-made meals. Now you can. They have now they're creating sectors for meal delivery. A lot of the school systems now, they do have the healthy options, or Lunch Hero I just saw in the news not too long ago. There's a lot of programs now to try to get the fresh, healthy meals to the people that need them, that might not have access to them on a normal basis.
I think there's two components. There's the food safety aspect, so we all want a safe supply chain or safe food sources, and then there's accessibility. So is it accessible to everybody? And that's where a knock usually occurs on healthy food, organic food. It's too expensive, and it's not accessible to the most of the, or some of the population. So I think there's as more and more companies use great ingredients, organic ingredients and what have you, it'll become more accessible. But then there's another aspect in our realm, in the retail world, where a lot of retailers are understanding what they need to promote and to drive traffic, and then also understanding their consumer. And an example of this is organic food. So Walmart is one of the biggest organic retailers, organic produce retailers in the country. And they're catering to a fairly middle class, lower class population. So, and then also when you talk about channels of retail, dollar stores are selling food, convenience stores are selling food now, where decades ago everybody went to grocery stores for their food. Now you have several options. This omni-channel approach that we've heard in different industries, that people talking today, that is occurring. It's also occurring in the food industry. So that accessibility is improving quite a bit. I mean, they're selling food at IKEA. So when you go furniture shopping, you could have lunch or dinner.
Just meatballs or other food?
Mostly Swedish. Yeah.
Yeah, so that opens up the conversation about the food distribution and channel system. I have some data which says like 40% of all food in the United States is wasted, 40%. 70% of Americans' calories come from processed food, loaded with preservatives. So our food distribution system is really starved for efficiency, like traveling from farm to truck to packaging center to distribution center, then the retail store. And then the average time for preserving the freshness of cut fruits and vegetables and, prep salad or sandwiches, all of that. And I mean, you guys are really the retail face of that food. So how do you handle, this is like 5 to 7 days, when you're small, it's okay to manage, but when you grow big, and the companies like Blue Apron and companies who are serving thousands of meals daily, I mean, it is a big challenge. And are there any innovations taking place? Is there any better way they are doing the things? I mean, any ideas?
Well, there is technology in the UK where restaurants, prior to close, have the ability to put out the meals they have prepped that can be then given away at discount or for free.
Right, I saw that.
And
yeah.
I think it's exciting, all of us here with technology, like going back to the point I made before, I think there's a huge opportunity for technology to basically say, well, at some point there's food that's about to go and be wasted. Like the supermarket knows when and how much food will be wasted. So technology can put that coming food point in time when it's going to be wasted to demand. And just like, we couldn't have imagined having a stranger in their own car pick us up or deliver food to us, which we do now. That same thing can be done with restaurants as one example, where there's a huge amount of wastage. And I think going back to healthcare, we spoke about earlier, there was a big kick when the federal government gave incentives to physicians and doctors' offices to put their patient records into an electronic format. And I think there's room for food, for regulation, for smart regulation. I think a law was recently passed in France that forbids food stores to throw away a significant amount of the food they were throwing away before. In fact, they can't do that anymore. They have to get rid of it in a different way. They have to give it away. They have to repackage it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge opportunity for us here.
Yeah,
in this room.
I think there are laws here which protects us, or we cannot just give away the food in the end of the day.
It's
If
the
we have
opposite.
extra
We can't
stuff.
give it away.
Yeah.
We should be told we have to give it away.
I know.
And I'll share Eat Fresco, our product is sold in grocery stores. So a conversation I often have with grocery store buyers is that they have their prepared foods, they have their deli section. So how do we compete with that? It's, of course, higher margin than what we would offer them as a packaged food product. But when we look at the waste that they have and the labor it is to create it, we can be a solution for that. And it goes back to business model innovation. So that business model of mass producing, yeah, there's going to be a lot of waste because you're not as close to the business as you should be. And it also enables us to utilize technology. We again, sell to retail stores, and we're implementing in the next month or so a technology where we know exactly what each store is selling per week. So then when we go into that store, we understand how much product should be in there, so to lessen the food waste. And technology on the other side too is packaging. So our product, if you put food in a tray with a lid, you might get 3 to 5 day shelf life out of it. Our product is good for 15 days without any preservatives, without freezing, because of the innovative way we're packaging it. It's a vacuum seal, so we're vacating all the oxygen, all the air from that product. So that's going to help with food waste, and that, extending shelf life as innovation occurs within packaging. That's going to help us address that food waste issue.
So Stevie, have you ever tried your own food?
Of
I'm
course.
just kidding. So,
I am my
do you
target
eat it
market.
every day?
I do.
Okay, wonderful.
I have a 2-year-old, and I tell everybody I'm my own target market. I'm running a business. I'm
Uh-huh.
a single mom, so I need
So,
my
so
own
all of
service.
so your entire family eats every day the food. So,
I don't know
and
if
so you have different chefs who make different type of foods. Or the same chef who makes for others makes for you. I'm sure it's the same thing. But what about you, Rob? Same question goes with you.
I was impressed talking to Stevie. I look at the food industry. There's a lot of competitors. I compete with everybody. Anything that you're eating, I consider a competitor. But companies like CaterMe Fit and Eat Fresco, one would think that we're competitors, that we're doing prepared meals. And Stevie informed me that she buys Eat Fresco all the time, which was great to hear. And I just love that. And I hope I can pay her back someday for that. But so
we are trading each
Yeah,
other's
I mean-
tastes and flavors because
Yeah.
of that.
absolutely,
Oh, great.
variety, spice of life.
So what about your family, friends? They order beverages from your side, Nathaniel, or who is your immediate customers? You have to really hunt for customers, or people who know you, they just buy it from you, or yourself, your family. I mean, that's where the first business comes from, right? People talk, they know you, they talk about it, and then. So what do you feel
Well,
about?
no, the business that we're in really is getting beverages to people in venues and bars and restaurants. But interestingly, that when we started off, our primary target was alcoholic beverage companies, beer companies, vodka companies. But we found out that we actually had a lot of success with healthy foods, smoothies, and when we launched in Miami, one of our first brand partnerships was with a company called Coconut Cartel, and they package a coconut, and it's branded Coconut Cartel, and they sell the coconut, so when you go to a hotel or a restaurant in Miami Beach, you buy a real coconut. They're from Costa Rica. And through our network, they wanted to push that brand. And it turned out that those types of non-alcoholic beverage brands were the ones that really kind of resonated. So I drink a lot of coconut water.
That's good. That's good. That keeps you healthy and fit. That's what I see. So we are seeing, I mean, that's one thing in which everybody is talking about, and some people who are in food industry, they take a huge pride to say, okay, we go through Uber Eats, or we go through Yelp delivery system, or so it's like a platform marketing. And I know you guys are doing something in your own way, the distribution, if you reach out to grocery, or you do through online portal. And so do you think this Uber word itself, or Uberification of food, plays a bigger role in setting up a brand identity for meal delivery systems or networks or platform where, do you see the shift in consumer behavior, ordering more and more for online foods rather than going to the chains and going to, so what's your thoughts? Because this is a totally a radical shift in consumer thinking. So I would really like to discuss this because that's a very, very hot debate at this moment.
Well, it's allowed us to not have, that normal brick and mortar restaurant or store, and allows people to do business directly to the consumer.
We can explain this in detail. How many of you really, have you ordered online meals? How many here people ordered online meals? Let's raise hand.
Not that many.
How many of you don't know what online meals are? So everybody knows. You even don't know what online meals are. Okay. Anybody who has tried online meals and their experience was not good? Anybody over here? So everybody who has tried and their experience was.
And that's just the fresh meal delivery. That's just the meals. But
Right.
what about Amazon Prime or Uber Eats?
Right.
Or even before that, which is still cool. Door-to-door delivery. And
Right, doorsteps and door-to-door
Yeah.
delivery. So, I mean, they are opening up more challenges every time with the new technology. And I go back to this chart, if you see. This is the latest, the 51 companies I was talking about who was funded. This is a chart of all latest food tech industries around the globe. I know it's very small because there was too many companies who are right now challenging the market to get their own share. We will take a little bit shift. So I would explain you a little bit how these two markets work at this moment. One is a restaurant market. You go, you order the food. It's an instant meal delivery system. Same way when you go online, either you go Yelp or Eat24, you go, Grubhub is a common platform which we all are aware. You find what you like and you Uber it's the same thing. You push a button and you get a meal delivered within 30 to 45 minutes. That's instant delivery. There's another way where like companies like CaterMe Fit or companies, even ourselves, Eatwell, we do a scheduled delivery. Now, scheduled delivery is where you really have to plan what you are eating in the evening or what you're eating next day. And you have to order that in advance so that the delivery can be scheduled. So these are the two different shifts in the market. So my question here for the panel is, how do you see the difference in profitability? Because this is, the logistic management is something which is really, really a big part of the profitability margin in this business. So I think, Stevie, you would be the best one to answer, but I would take everybody's. How challenging is the logistic? You can give some numbers,
like I said,
and
we're still figuring it
you can
out.
give some numbers. How much percentage of the logistic for the food cost? So let's say if your food costs $20, what's your logistic cost towards delivering that meal to the consumer?
Well, for us, it's a subscription base, so it's a weekly delivery fee.
Right.
Versus a one-time delivery fee.
Right, but you split it in basically 3 times.
Right. So
Right.
it's about $5 a stop.
Correct. So when you do the deliveries schedule, and if suppose you would have to you have to, fight with the companies like Grubhub who are doing instant deliveries. I mean, they are your competitors. But would you be able to do the same thing, or it's totally two different models or two different
I think
markets?
that's a completely different model. Doesn't mean that we can't do it, but we haven't gotten there yet.
And all of this stems from that consumer demand. They want convenience. We're all busier than ever, and many of us don't have time to cook and clean up and go shop for ingredients and what have you. So you have all these business models that are popping up, and whether it's a meal delivery service or meal kit delivery services similar to Blue Apron or Plated, that is a workaround grocery shopping. So it's all addressing that consumer demand of time-starved consumers. The business model of meal delivery service or meal kits, ingredients, has it been proven out? I don't know. I mean, I think we still have to wait to see. Grocery delivery, a big retailer that we're all familiar with is Publix. They've said that they don't want to get into grocery delivery. They'll let other companies do that for them, i.e. shipped. So I think a lot is that, and that's everything is being thrown out there, and a lot is being tried, and what's going to be profitable in the long term is still to be determined. But what we do is sell at retail stores, because our thought is that we want to be convenient. We want to be where you're already shopping. You already go into that grocery store. You already go into that drugstore or convenience store for other items. So that's our route to convenience and addressing that convenience demand from consumers.
So I think we are pretty much on the time. We have about 3-4 minutes. I will just throw a last question, which would be an open question. Of course, everybody, all the customers, we have Back for Better food and beverage products, and it's all like we have different choices, different things. We have seen the data for last few years and last few months, how there is a shift in food tech industry. So of course, it is a very exciting opportunity in different ways for everybody. And a lot of things has been tried. And so what do you think in your own ways, what would be lasting and sustainable in a longer run? You see, like for next 3 years, what would be the scenario people would be doing in food industry? And I think that's what I would just end up the questions from here. You all can take
like I touched on earlier, I don't think we're going to go backwards to we want more processed foods or food shipped around the country. We want to get back to basics. Now there's a challenge to that, and Nathaniel touched on it with that article about exposing restaurants and sourcing locally. Well, farm to table, for the most part, started in California, where it's very easy to do farm to table because that's where all the farms are. It's very challenging to do everywhere in the country. So, as I see the trend going towards more local, but it's also telling that story as well and what we're doing to address those demands. I don't know if, as far as distribution, where do you see it going?
Well, I think that I think half the room said they hadn't tried home food delivery. I think in a year or 2 or 3, we'll all be doing it all the time because we'll have so many different choices, and the cost of that delivery is going to go down. I think eventually that people will be cooking at home, and with extra food, they'll be able to send that food to where somebody wants a meal. Just like our homes are going to be little mini power generation plants. If you put a solar cell on your roof, it can go back in, you can get a credit. Just like you can use your own car and pick up a stranger and drop them off somewhere. So I think it's exciting. There's tremendous opportunity in food and beverage, whether it's delivery to your home or micro-processing of the food. As you said before, the challenge, you've come up with cool technology that can keep your food fresh for longer periods of time. But there's also a way to look at it where if you process or produce the food close to where it's going to go, you can eliminate waste that way.
Yep.
Wonderful. So these are some exciting ideas. I would just give you my personal story. I grew up in India, and I still remember how my grandfather used to eat. My grandmother used to crush wheat every day. It is called by hand when it's a grinder, which she used to do it by hand. It's just between 2 stones. And then she used to cook with that flour. She used to cook the handmade tortillas. And he used to go to the farm, pick up in the morning, through his morning walk, he used to pick up the vegetables and bring it home. And within 2 hours from the farm too, they used to cook fresh food, boiled lentils, and that's used to be our food. And it has been our food for like many, many years. I have never seen my grandfather eating out anywhere in his lifetime. He died when he was 86. He did not take any medications. So I think the food is something you can really heal the world through food and eliminate medications. And a lot of studies and research are happening in that area. Especially with the rising obesity, diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, all of these things you can really handle if you really eat right and eat well. So we'll conclude that panel right here. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful rest of the evening.